The invitation to my brother David's $1 billion celebration arrived wrapped in gold leaf paper, delivered by a personal courier to our family's modest auto repair shop. Dad barely glanced at it, continuing to work under the hood of a '67 Mustang. "You should go, Mike," he said, his weathered hands expertly adjusting the carburetor. "Your brother went to a lot of trouble to show off his success." Success. That's what David called it when he abandoned our family business 5 years ago to start his tech company. Now, at 32, he was Silicon Valley's newest billionaire, and he never let us forget it. I watched Dad work, admiring how his hands moved with perfect precision despite their age. Reynolds Auto had been in our family for 3 generations. My grandfather started it, my father perfected it, and now, at 28, I was learning its every secret. "Someone has to keep the shop running," I replied, picking up a wrench. "These cars won't fix themselves." Dad straightened up, wiping his hands on his work cloth. For a moment, he looked like he wanted to say something important, but instead just nodded toward the Mustang. "Let's finish this beauty first." The next evening, against my better judgment, I found myself walking into the Valley's most exclusive hotel. David had rented the entire top floor for his celebration. The elevator doors opened to reveal a scene of pure extravagance. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, and Silicon Valley's elite in designer clothes that cost more than our shop's yearly revenue. "Mike," David's voice boomed across the room. My little brother finally decided to join us. He strode over, glass of champagne in hand, surrounded by his usual entourage. Everything about him screamed new money, from his $10,000 suit to his perfectly whitened teeth. "Where's Dad?" he asked, looking around with exaggerated concern. "Don't tell me he's still tinkering with old cars." "Someone has to run the family business," I said quietly. David laughed too loudly. "Family business? That old shop is an embarrassment." I offered to buy it, modernize it, turn it into something worthwhile, but Dad's too stubborn, too stuck in the past. A few of his tech friends snickered. I felt my face grow hot but kept my voice steady. "That shop put you through college, and look how I repaid that investment." He gestured grandly at the opulent room. "Tech Future is worth $5 billion. I made more money last week than that shop will make in a century." Before I could respond, the hotel's event coordinator approached anxiously. "Mr. Reynolds, there's an issue with the payment processing for tonight's event." "Handle it," David snapped, waving her away. "I'm celebrating my success." I noticed something odd in the coordinator's expression, but David was already launching into his favorite topic, himself. "You know, Mike, it's not too late. I could give you a job at Tech Future. Something entry-level, of course. Better than wasting your life changing oil." The way he said it, like he was offering a favor to a beggar, made something snap inside me. Our grandfather built that shop from nothing. Dad turned it into the most respected auto repair business in the city. We fix things, make them work better. "What exactly does your company do, David?" His smile turned cold. "We're a tech disruptor. We're revolutionizing digital payment processing with blockchain integration and—" "But what do you actually do?" The question hung in the air. I noticed a few nearby guests shift uncomfortably. "You wouldn't understand," David said dismissively. "It's beyond your technical expertise." Just then, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and for a split second, I saw something flash across his face. Fear. "If you'll excuse me," he said quickly, "business calls." As he hurried away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Dad had always told me to trust my instincts when working on cars. That same sense was telling me my brother's perfect world was about to crash. I didn't know then how right that instinct would prove to be. The next morning, I arrived at the shop early, as usual. Dad was already there, reading something on his ancient computer with an intensity I'd never seen before. "Tech Future's stock is crashing," he said without looking up. "Down 80% in pre-market trading. The SEC has suspended all trading." Before I could process this, the shop's phone started ringing. It was David. "Mike," his voice was frantic. "Is Dad there? I need to talk to him. Now." I handed the phone to Dad, watching his face as he listened. His expression remained calm, but his eyes hardened. "No, David," he said finally. "I won't sell the shop to cover your margins. Not today, not ever." He paused, listening. "You made your choices. Now you have to face them." He hung up, and almost immediately my phone lit up with breaking news alerts. Tech Future CEO under investigation for massive fraud, screamed the headlines. Payment processing scheme exposed, declared another. Dad, I started, but he was already walking toward his office, a small room in the back of the shop that I'd rarely been allowed to enter. It's time, he said simply. Come with me. The office looked the same as always. Worn desk, filing cabinets, framed photos of classic cars. But Dad went straight to an old painting of a Shelby Cobra, removing it to reveal a safe I'd never known existed. Your brother chose flash over substance, Dad said as he worked the combination. He wanted millions without understanding value. But your grandfather, he understood real value. The safe opened with a click. Inside wasn't much. Some old papers, a leather notebook, and a small metal box. Know what these are? Dad asked, carefully lifting out the papers. I looked closer and felt my breath catch. They were patents, dozens of them. All in my grandfather's name. Every major auto manufacturer in the world uses these designs, Dad explained. The transmission synchronization system, that was your grandfather's. The adaptive fuel injection process, his too. He never sold the patents, just licensed them. Been generating royalties for 40 years. My hands shook as I read through the documents. The numbers were staggering. But the shop, we live so modestly. Dad smiled. The shop is real. The work we do here is real. That matters more than money. But make no mistake, Reynolds Auto isn't just an auto repair shop. It's the headquarters of Reynolds Engineering Holdings, worth about $12 billion as of this morning. I had to sit down. David, does he know? David never asked, never cared to learn about the family business, too busy chasing quick millions to notice the billions right under his nose. Just then, my phone buzzed again. Another news alert, Tech Future CEO David Reynolds arrested for securities fraud. Dad picked up the leather notebook. Your grandfather wrote everything down, his designs, his philosophy, his plans for the future. I've added my own notes over the years. It's time you started doing the same. Why now? I managed to ask. Because you were ready? You stayed, you learned, you respected the work. Just like I did with my father. He handed me the notebook. There's more. A lot more. But first, I think your brother might need a reminder about what real value looks like. The media circus outside David's downtown office building was in full swing when Dad and I arrived. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashed, and security guards struggled to maintain order. Through the glass doors, I could see federal agents boxing up documents and hard drives. Mr. Reynolds, a reporter recognized Dad. Your son David is accused of orchestrating a $4 billion fraud scheme. Any comment? Dad walked past them without a word, his worn work boots clicking against the marble lobby floor. The FBI agent in charge straightened when he saw us. Mr. Reynolds, he said respectfully, we've been trying to reach you. Had some cars to fix first, Dad replied calmly. Where's my son? They led us to what used to be David's corner office, the space that had once showcased his ego, all chrome and glass and modern art, now felt hollow. David sat slumped in his ergonomic chair, his perfect suit wrinkled, his lawyer whispering urgently in his ear. He looked up when we entered. Dad, thank God. You have to help me. The shop, we can sell it. Use the money for bail. My lawyer says. Be quiet, David, Dad said quietly, but with enough authority that the room fell silent. He pulled out an old folding chair from the corner, the kind we kept in the shop's waiting room, and sat down. You want to know why I wouldn't sell the shop? Dad continued. Why I never cared about your fancy offices and billion-dollar valuations. He reached into his worn leather jacket and pulled out a document, one of the patents from the safe. David's lawyer's eyes widened as he read it. Mr. Reynolds, the lawyer interrupted, this patent. The licensing rights alone would be worth more than Tech Future ever was, Dad finished, even before we knew it was built on fraud. David snatched the document, his hands shaking as he read. This is grandfather's, but this means, all these years, Dad said, while you were chasing paper wealth, our family already had what mattered. Not just money, though yes, Reynolds Engineering Holdings is worth billions, but purpose, legacy, real innovation that makes the world better. Why didn't you tell me? David's voice cracked. You never asked, never spent time in the shop, never wanted to learn. Dad stood up. You wanted shortcuts to success, David. There aren't any. The FBI agent cleared his throat. Mr. Reynolds, about the charges. My son will cooperate fully, Dad said. He'll face the consequences of his actions. He turned to David. But after that, if you're ready to learn, really learn, the shop will still be there. David's lawyer jumped in. Actually, about the shop. Given these patents, perhaps we could negotiate a deal with the prosecutors. The shop, Dad cut him off, isn't for sale. Never was. Never will be. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and David. That Mustang you used to love driving in high school? I just finished restoring it. When you're ready to understand what real value is, come by the shop. We'll talk. As we left, I saw David's reflection in the glass walls, tears streaming down his face as he watched us walk away. For the first time since he left the family business, he looked young again. Lost. Outside, the reporters were still shouting questions, but now they had new ones. Mr. Reynolds. Sources say Reynolds Engineering Holdings owns crucial automotive patents. Is it true your company is worth more than Tech Future ever was? Dad kept walking, but I noticed him smile slightly as he heard one reporter say to another, "Wait, the auto shop guy is the real billionaire?" 6 months later, I sat at Dad's old desk, now my desk, reviewing the latest licensing agreements from Toyota. The shop was still busy as ever, the familiar sounds of wrenches and engines creating their own kind of music, but things were different now. The safe behind the Cobra painting stood open, Grandfather's notebook resting on my desk next to modern patent applications. I'd spent months studying his designs, understanding not just the mechanics but the philosophy behind them. Each innovation wasn't just about making money. It was about making vehicles safer, more efficient, better for the world. David's trial had ended with a plea deal, 5 years in a minimum security prison and full restitution to his investors. But that wasn't the end of his story. Mike, Lisa, our front desk manager, poked her head in. He's here again. I looked through my office window to see David standing in the shop's waiting room. No designer suit today, just jeans and a worn t-shirt. He'd been coming by every Saturday for the past month, ever since the judge approved his pre-imprisonment work release program. The transmission on the Gibson family's Volkswagen needs checking, I said, watching him shift nervously. Tell him to start there. David had started at the very bottom, cleaning floors, organizing tools, learning the basics. Just like Grandfather had made Dad start, like Dad had made me start. No shortcuts this time. I picked up my phone to call Dad, who was at a meeting with German engineers about implementing Grandfather's latest fuel efficiency design. How's he doing? Dad asked, knowing why I was calling. Better, I replied, watching David carefully inspect the Volkswagen's transmission. He's actually listening now. Learning. Good, Dad said softly. Your grandfather would be proud. Later that afternoon, I found David sitting in front of the Mustang, his old high school car that Dad had restored. I was such an idiot, he said without looking up. All those years chasing fake success, trying to prove I was better than this place. I never understood what we really had here. I sat down beside him. You understand now. He nodded, running his hand along the car's perfectly restored fender. Every car that comes in here, we make it better. Every design in Grandfather's notebook, it makes things better. It's not about money, it's about making something real. Think you're ready to learn more? David looked up, hope flickering in his eyes. You teach me? After everything. I pulled out Grandfather's notebook. Family legacy isn't just about inheritance, David. It's about understanding value, real value. That evening, after the shop closed, 3 generations of Reynolds men sat in the back office. Dad had come back early from his meeting, bringing with him the signed contracts for our new electric vehicle charging system. Grandfather's last design, which I had finally figured out how to implement. David sat quietly as Dad explained how Grandfather had built everything, how each patent was designed to make vehicles safer, more efficient, more accessible. How the billions in licensing fees were just a side effect of doing good work. I made engines talk, David said suddenly, making us both look at him. Before Tech Future became about stock prices and impressing investors, I actually created something real, software that could diagnose engine problems just by listening to them. but I abandoned it because it wasn't flashy enough. Dad smiled. Grandfather would have loved that idea. It's not too late, I added. The shop could use a good diagnostic system. For the first time in years, I saw my brother's eyes light up with real purpose, not the artificial excitement of stock prices and valuations, but the genuine passion of creating something worthwhile. Today, Reynolds Auto looks much the same from the outside, a family-owned shop dedicated to fixing cars and solving problems. But inside, innovation thrives. David's diagnostic system is revolutionizing how we repair vehicles. Our patent portfolio continues to grow, each new design focused on making transportation better, safer, cleaner. The billions, they're still there, still growing. But like Dad always said, that was never the point. The real value is in the work itself, in the legacy of 3 generations dedicated to doing things right. Last week, a young mechanic fresh out of technical school came looking for a job. I watched David show her around the shop, explaining our philosophy with the same patience Dad had shown us. Remember, I heard him say, anyone can chase money. We chase excellence. Dad stood beside me smiling. Think she's ready to learn about the safe behind the Cobra? I watched her eyes light up as David explained how to properly diagnose an engine problem. Not yet, but she will be. Because that's what real legacy is about, not just preserving wealth, but passing on the understanding of true value. One lesson, one innovation, one person at a time.